What's the biggest red flag entering next year? It's very easy for me. I've certainly talked about it a lot going back to the season last year. They've got to be better on defense. If they're going to legitimately compete for a Super Bowl, they have to be improved defensively. Do they have to be the best defense in football? No. But they've got to improve at least into kind of that top half of the league defensively. And I think specifically it is the run defense. They've got to be better against the run. They can't get gashed over and over and over again. Imagine if their defense had been just average last year, what they would have been offensively. The numbers would have been even more impressive because they would have had more opportunities. They didn't punt much. They just didn't get as many swings game in and game out because they couldn't get off the field on the other end. Imagine if their plus minus, if their turnover ratio is better, if they get more takeaways like they did against the Lions in the postseason, which they didn't do against Philadelphia in the championship game. But, man, you start with a guy like Tyrone Tracy, you go Josh Jacobs, you go Ashton Genty, and you go Bijan Robinson in the first 4 games of the season. We're going to find out in that first month of the season if they're improved against the run. That, to me, is the biggest red flag. I think given what you're going to face this year, at least based on what it looks like now, better offensive teams, much better quarterbacks, and the same, impressive list of running backs. I'll never forget when Dan Quinn said late in the year, he said, we've played some really good running backs. And I went back and looked at it and I said, oh my God, you guys have faced the best backs in the league, and one in particular 3 times in Saquon Barkley. And you got the same thing staring at you in 2025 with much better quarterbacks that you got to face, during the course of the year. It starts with, the Packers in week 2. When you're going to be facing Jordan Love, you got Justin Herbert in week 5. You've got, Dak. You've got Mahomes. You've got, Goff. You've got Tua. You've got Bo Nix. We don't know what Chicago will look like with Caleb Williams. We don't know what Minnesota will look like with J.J. McCarthy. And that's before you get to the end of the season with 2 against Jalen Hurts. Red flag, run defense. If they can answer that, and they'll get tested early in the year, it would appear, you got a chance to go win the whole thing. If you're not much improved there, I think you're talking about still so good offensively in a quarterback, as long as he's healthy, the opportunity to win 9-10 games and be a playoff team. I do think that. 301-230-0980. Max, the biggest red flag for you is?
So kind of in a similar vein to yours, rush defense is definitely one of them. But in that, the lack of an edge presence, because you're going out in the season with Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Jacob Martin, Cleveland Farrell, and I guess if you want to call Javon Kinlaw an elephant edge, you can, but your best pass rusher at this point is Frankie Louvu. And while Frank Louvu is great, I would like to have more guys with that same ferocity on the edge. But not only that, but setting the edge so, the rush defense does get help. They can't bounce it to the outside, and you get gashed for 45 yards, a pop. So that's the big red flag to me right now, is just the lack of that edge presence. But, we'll see. Dan Quinn seems to be confident. Joe Witt seems to be confident heading into the season with what they've got. So, I trusted them last year. I'm going to trust them again this year, but it is something to have my eye on.
Look, to your point, they could be better against the run this year, but the quarterbacks they're facing, they don't get enough pressure, and they end up becoming a bad third down team because of it. Justin Herbert takes advantage of no pass rush or not good enough in the pass rush area. Mahomes does, Dak does, Tua does, Goff does. What I'd love to see, though, for them is just the ability to force third and longs and get into those situations and not give up, 4, 5, 6 yards a pop on the ground. Because I've always felt as an NFL fan that there's nothing worse than watching your team get gashed on the ground. It is a much more painful way to go.
It's demoralizing.
Because it's demoralizing. And it's like, the Steve Spurrier line from many years ago that Scott shared with us, that the defensive coordinator, said at the time, Spurrier, when he was at South Carolina, got on the headset and said to his defensive coordinator, who was getting gashed against the run, either stop him or let him score, because I got some ball plays that'll work. And you know that because of what we will have offensively with Jaden and Kingsbury and everybody else, it will be painful. The best defense for the opposition will be keeping possession of the ball and keeping Washington's offense off the field. All right, Gary, go ahead. What's the biggest red flag for you entering next year?
It's the defense. I mean, first of all, thanks for taking my call, Kevin.
Sure, Gary.
It's the defense. The thing that bothers me about this offseason is that they had $90 million in cap space. And they didn't, everybody walking off that field when they gave up 55 points to Philadelphia, it was easy to see that they needed to improve the defense and they needed an edge rusher. Okay. And I don't think they adequately addressed either one. I don't think if all these players that they picked up in free agency played exactly the way they played last year with their respective teams, we're still going to be a bad football team. That's my problem.
Defense.
And if Dorrance,
bad defense.
And if Dorrance Armstrong is the main pass rusher that you have, you're in trouble. I told everybody when they called last year, when they were talking about Dorrance, he's about a 7.5 sack guy. That's what he's going to be. And they had an opportunity to go out and get a young pass rusher, and they didn't do it. And all of the hype going into the offseason where the reports were, everybody wants to come play for Washington. Yeah, you remember all of that? That didn't pan out. And I don't know if I can blame Adams because he may have gone out and tried to get these guys a free agency, and they said, no, we're going to go in another direction. But this, I'm very underwhelmed about their free agent haul. $90 million, you think they're going to make some splash signings? They didn't make one splash signing. These are a bunch of average
Well, they made
players.
a splash trade. It was on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's the splash trade, and I have my issues with that. But I think they gave up too much. But I understand we got better with those trades. But I don't think we've improved the team at all with the free agent signings. I like the draft.
Gary, you're not unreasonable. I don't think that you are out of line. I think a lot of fans would agree that at least based on the moves and the additions they made defensively, nobody's doing cartwheels that the defense is going to be locked down and great next year and significantly improved. Like I've said many times before, though, defense is incredibly variable year to year, and there is one thing going in their favor. This is year 2 in the same system, and perhaps, guys like Payne and Armstrong and Farrell and Johnny Newton and, a guy like Jordan McGee, all of a sudden, it comes together in year 2. That's what you have to hope for. But in terms of the additions defensively, there's nothing that blows you away. Nothing. Does Trey Amos look great in OTAs and mini camps? Yeah, but corners typically don't have great rookie years. Those are the exceptions to the rule. The Surtans and the Sauce Gardners in recent years, even Sanders still last year, usually you need reps and you need years, or at least a year. But I'm with you. Like, this is the biggest question mark going into next year. Samaj, finish it up for us. Go ahead.
Well, first off, thanks for taking my call, Matt and Coach. Always good talking to you, Coach.
You too, Samaj.
Matt stole my thunder completely as far as my edge guys. I'm basically point for point.
Sorry, Samaj.
Just echo him. And as far as my other flag, believe it or not, Kevin, it's Kingsbury. All right, and I say that because I was pleased with our RB run last year. I thought we had good guys all the way down to Rodriguez, and there was just too many times Kingsbury put Jalen in jeopardy, calling dives. We're in the second half of the season. We're in a playoff push. He's calling dives for Jaden, and I just wasn't feeling that at all. So, and then there was other times where I thought
he was calling what? Did you say dives?
Yes. Dives.
There was a lot of quarterback keeper, quarterback sweep. I'd like to see that out of the playbook too, personally. Yes.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And then the other part of it was just sometimes in the flow of the game, there was times where we should have ran and we threw, and there was times we threw and we should have ran. So I'm keeping my eye on
you're reaching here. They were an unstoppable top 5 offense last year.
No doubt. No
Okay.
doubt. But you remember, Kevin, everybody makes adjustments year to year. And
Yeah,
so,
they do.
best believe
And
me,
so does
the
Kingsbury.
NFC East,
He's got a
no
history of
doubt,
making adjustments.
and absolutely, and he's going to have to. And lastly, on my last point is, I just want to bring some light to your comment yesterday on that guy's 10 things of trash for the other teams in the division. You said that one thing would lead for us to be in a dumpster fire would be Jaden going down. I remind you, we have Heisman Trophy winner, playoff caliber, Marcus Mariota is our number 2. I'm not worried if Jaden goes down. If they both go down, then we got a dumpster fire. But if Jaden goes down, I'm more than confident that Mariota can get the job done. Thanks for taking my calls, Coach.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Max. You guys have a blessed rest of
I
the
hope we don't have to see that. And I loved Marcus Mariota last year. And he's terrific as a teammate and a mentor and the whole thing. If Marcus Mariota is your starter for a significant majority of the games, you're not going to the postseason next year, more likely than not. With Jaden, you're guaranteed pretty much if he plays 17 of at least winning 9, winning more than you lose.